So before this video starts, I do just want to say I already did this video. I had this video all done and ready to go on the old editing software that I had by Saturday the 4th. And what happened was when I was exporting it, there must have been a corrupt file or something, and I already started deleting videos and clips that were in my media, so I couldn't just go back and re-export everything because I already started deleting stuff for storage for my PC. So I did already do pretty much this whole video that I'm about to show you right now. So I had to go back, I had to redo everything. So the rankings stayed very similar, but I had more like time to think about where I want to put certain titans in the ranking. So I didn't really think, to be honest with you, only one titan changed from the original spot. So it really wasn't a big difference, but in a way I'm kind of glad that the original was deleted, because I do realize when I was kind of done and finished with it, I kind of realized how much I left out and certain things I wanted to talk about that weren't in the original. So when I went back to redo it this time, I was able to talk about the things that I wasn't able to talk about the first time. In a way, I think this is for the better anyway, but I am disappointed that, 4 days of work just kind of disappeared on me. So, and I also want to add that this is probably the last Titanfall video I'm going to do. I'm debating on whether to do a tier list on the pilot tacticals like phase shift, grapple, so on and so forth. If I do that, I'm going to have to start grinding more Titanfall since I haven't been playing too much recently, except for really to gather footage for this video. If I do that, I'd be more than happy to do that again, but I might not. It depends. I really want to do more Apex stuff, but I still haven't gotten the cross progression prompt yet, so I'm kind of waiting for that. Other than that, yeah, the video starts now. Alright, so starting with Ion. I think Ion is one of the better primary weapons in the game, the splitter rifle. It's very useful, it's very reliable, especially at up close range. I think it's very good. Is it better than Legion's gun, or is it better than Monarch's gun? I would say no, probably not. But I think it's definitely the most reliable, probably the easiest to use. I don't know. Monarch's is probably easier, but it's definitely more reliable. I also think her defensive capability, the Vortex Shield, is very, very useful, especially that you can soak up all that damage and then just spit it right back at your enemies. Is extremely useful because not only is it defensive, but it is an offensive ability as well. Her tripwire is probably the most useless ability in her entire kit. Not to say it's bad, but I don't really like it. I don't really use it a whole lot, and not to mention it takes up so much like energy from her energy bar, which I also can't stand that she has like a stupid energy bar, but I understand why they have it, because she would be a little overpowered if she didn't have it. But the fact that it takes up so much in that energy bar is a little bit annoying, especially for how niche it is. But it does do a lot of damage when someone goes by it. But it is really easy to see. They can destroy it easily. Again, it's very niche, so I don't know about that. I'm not a big fan of the tripwire, but I do like her other ability, which is the laser shot. That is a very good ability. Just a very good like damage output. One tap pilots if they're out of their titans. So that's probably the best one going for her. But her core is also very, very cool. I don't think it's the best core in the game, but it's one of the better ones. I think all the cores are really good, actually. It's kind of hard to say if her core is one of the better ones. Her core makes her very slow, and if you can get behind cover, her core is essentially useless. So I don't think her core is the best, but it's okay. I guess I kind of just went from it's pretty good, one of the best, to just okay. But so with all that being said, Ion, she's between here and here. I'm gonna say, so in my last ranking that I did, the one that got deleted, I had her in S tier, and you know what? I think I'm gonna keep her there. I think she's very good. Her tripwire is pretty much the only niche part of her kit, and even that can be good when used correctly. So I really don't see much holding back Ion except for that energy bar. But if you can manage that energy bar, then I mean you can excel with this Titan really. All right, moving on to Legion. I think Legion's very underrated. I think he's one of the better Titans in the game. His gun is easily the best gun in the game, the Predator Cannon. It has two modes. It has a long range mode and a close range mode, so they're both very useful and effectful. His power shot though is very useful. I don't know if it does how much damage it does. I'm assuming it does a similar amount of damage to Ion's laser shot. I can't be sure about that. His gun shield is very useful. A lot of people like to shit on his gun shield. I don't really know why. I think it's useful, and sure, you can shoot around it, but at the end of the day, as fast paced as Titanfall is, I mean, most people are just going to shoot into that gun shield and let the gun shield really soak up all that damage. I mean, let's be honest here. So I also feel like his core, the smart core, is a very, very good ability. It's a very convenient core. The core by itself, I don't think is all that great, but I cannot tell you how many times I've been killed from maybe like ejecting from my Titan, and the next thing I know, I just got shot out of the sky from a Legion who wasn't even aiming at me. So the smart core can be useful in situations, especially that, you know, infinite ammo while you're using it is very extremely useful. So with all that being said, oh, I do want to add though, he is very unmaneuverable. He is one of the 2 slowest Titans in the game, and that is a major downfall for him. So that being said, I'm gonna put him in A tier. I think he belongs in A tier. I don't think he belongs, you know, down here where I think a lot of people would put him. I think it's very useful if you know how to use them. You just can't get too up close and personal with your enemies. You can't let them get behind you because you're never going to have time to turn around and really get them before you take a whole load of damage. And yeah, it's just, as long as you can stay kind of further away, you can really excel with Legion, let's be honest with you. Northstar. Um, Northstar. So, Northstar's primary weapon is the plasma railgun. I can't decide whether I like this or not. To excel with this weapon, you really have to land your shots. You really have to time your shots. You have to really lead your shots to be good with this weapon. If you can do that, if you're really good at aiming and leading your shots, this is easily the best weapon in the game because you can pretty much just take down almost any Titan with just a few shots, really. But if you can't do that, then this is the worst weapon for any Titan primary you could possibly pick up because it is a learning curve. You have to be skilled with aiming. And me personally, I'm not a big fan of snipers in any game, really. So I'm not that great with Northstar with her plasma railgun. Take that into consideration. But she also has her hover ability, which allows her to hover in the air for a few seconds. Not sure how many seconds. Essentially, this ability can be good in situations, but I feel like this ability just makes her very vulnerable because she's just kind of hovering in the air. And unless you can get like right above another enemy Titan, I really don't think it's that useful. Because it really just kind of exposes her. So I don't think it's as useful as people think it is. Her traps, though, I think are also underrated. If you know how to place them, they can be very good to hold an enemy in one place. To hold an enemy in one place, I think is very good, a very good ability. I think it's kind of underrated if you know how to use that and play around that. That could really just be a death sentence for any enemy that you come across. She also has a missile, the cluster missile. I also really like this ability because it just closes off certain sections and certain attack routes to get to Northstar. So especially like pretty much any maneuverable Titan that can get up close to her and kind of start flanking her. So she's really good at keeping her enemies far away. She also has the flight core. I don't know how to feel about her flight core. It's only useful if you're right up close to your enemies. And that kind of goes against her entire point of the kit, which is to stay far away. I could be wrong, but I just feel like you can't really aim with the flight core far away. It just feels useless to me. So I think her flight core from up close is better to use because you can actually hit your shots. You want to stay as far away from as possible. So all that being said, I'm going to say Monarch's getting a C tier. You can be good with her, maybe make her A tier. I don't know. She's kind of on this level for me. And to be honest with you, for most players, I feel like she's going to be on this level. You know. But trust me, if you see an absolutely cracked Northstar main, just run away. That's the best thing you can do. Actually, it's really not, because that would just make it better for her. Anyway, moving on. Scorch. No! No! I mean, come on now. Let's be honest. It's Scorch. I mean, his whole kit is almost useless. I mean, come on. His primary gun, the thermite launcher, you really have to aim with that. It has such a weird drop off. It doesn't even feel like a gun. It's weird. I don't like it personally. So his gun is probably the worst in the game, if you ask me, as far as Titans go, obviously. He also has the firewall, which it can be useful to deter enemies or just to have a large damage pool to get enemies. It's really good when you use your incendiary trap and then use that flame wall. So I do feel like that is useful as a Scorch. And also I just talked about the incendiary trap. The only thing I don't like about the incendiary trap is it is an ability, but it's a useless ability by itself. Scorch is the only one that has a useless ability by itself. I mean, you have to shoot the gun or shoot the wall to activate the trap. If you just shoot at the trap, it's not going to do anything. And that's what I also don't like about it. He feels like he's short of an ability. I feel like his thermite launcher should do that by itself, if you ask me. I don't know. It makes him feel very underwhelming. I feel like you have to use him extremely intricately to even do anything with, and I don't know. But I will say, I think Scorch is the best core in the game. If someone's to get up close to you and it's overwhelming, you shoot that flame core and you wipe out every Titan in your path. I think his core is easily the best core and doesn't make up for how bad the rest of his kit is. No, it does not. But I also think, it is a very good core and it does come very fast. Because especially, you do rack up a lot of damage as Scorch, but you always manage to never get a kill. Oh, I forgot to mention, his heat shield, or his infernal wall, is it called? I can't remember. But the heat shield is extremely good, but it's extremely niche. I noticed that, you know, if you can get up close to an enemy, then good. You know, you hit them with that flame shield. But let's be honest with you, most of them can get away. Especially if you have like a Ronin, they'll go right away. Or a Northstar, they'll just fly up. Most of the Titans can just run away from his flame shield. So the only Titan you're really going to be getting that with is probably Legion, who can't really get away. But other than that, I feel like his flame wall, or heat shield, whatever it's called, is extremely useful, but in niche situations. Alright, Ronin. So Ronin is my highest level Titan as of making this video right now. And I will say, if you're really good with him, he can easily be like top of S tier, absolutely scary. You want to run away from a good Ronin. But a bad Ronin can easily be like C or D tier. Just because of the low health pool a Ronin has, a Ronin can get into the game, get into a fight, and just die right away. That's really, a lot of Ronin mains are kind of like that. Maybe even myself included. I don't know. I'm not like the best Ronin main out there, I'm telling you. His primary weapon, the lead wall, is very good, but I feel like maybe it should have an extra shot or something. It just feels like I always shoot all the ammo in the magazine, and then I'll have to reload, and by the time you reload, an enemy already, you know, is shooting you for so much damage, it's not even funny. And you have to choose between like reloading or putting up your sword. And it's always this kind of like, should I do this or should I do that? And no matter what you do, you're kind of losing, because if you put up your shield or whatever, the sword, then you're not able to output damage. You're only taking damage. You're taking a small amount of damage, a reduced amount of damage, but you're not able to output damage. But if you choose to reload the gun, it'll take your time to reload a gun, so you're going to be vulnerable for a little bit, but then you can output damage very quickly. So it's very difficult as a Ronin to decide what to do. If worse comes to worse, you do have the phase ability, which you can phase right out of there. And I think that's a very, very good ability. It's very underrated. If you know how to use it, and if you're very good with it, then you're good. But the one downside to that is, do not phase into an enemy Titan, because you will blow up. You as the Ronin will die if you phase into an enemy Titan. I've done that more than once, and it's extremely frustrating. He also has the Arc Wave, which I also really like. I really like the Arc Wave ability. It stuns and slows enemy Titans, so especially like a Legion or Scorch that's already slow isn't be like moving in ultra slow motion for a Ronin. And I really like that, because you could pretty much just take them down like that right away, super quick. They didn't even know what happened to them, so I really like that. But even the more maneuverable Titans, it works to slow them down and kind of throw off each of the players, like the other players you're going against, because they're not used to being so slow and stunned. Like, so you can really capitalize on that type of stun and slow motion and really get in there and get the kill. Ronin has the worst core ability in the game, though. I hear a lot of people like praising his sword core. I just don't understand why. Like, I understand you can kill people with a few swipes of the sword. I get that, but you have to understand, first of all, you have to get up close to the enemy. Hear me out. By the time you get your core, you've probably already taken damage, because you have to deal damage in order to get the core ability. So if you're dealing damage, you probably took damage along the way, right? So by the time you get his sword core, you already took damage, and you're probably low health. So when you get your sword core, it entices you to have to get close to your enemies. Well, you have to get close to your enemies because you don't have your gun. You can't pull your gun out during the core. You have to get close to your enemies, and you can be executed. So if you're half health Ronin going against a Legion or something, running in there, and a Legion is just unloading that entire gun on you, you can't do anything. I mean, by the time you get there and try to, you know, swipe them with the sword, I mean, you're already dead. They already executed you. So I really don't like his core, and half the time I really don't even use it when it's available. I think honestly, I think the core is a detriment. I think any core that requires you to be like super duper up close with your enemy, I think it's kind of a detriment, you know. So that being said, Ronin is gonna be A tier. I'd put him bottom A tier. If you're really good with him, S tier, easily. If you're really bad with him, D tier, easily. But I think most people, at least me, from my experience, I think he's more here, realistically, for most players. Alright, Tone. A lot of people hate Tone because she is so easy to use, but that being said, she is a very good Titan. Her primary weapon is probably one of the lesser weapons in the game. The tracker cannon, the 44mm, or the 40mm, I can't remember. It fires very slow. You do have to like really lead your shots with it, but it isn't like Northstar's railgun or anything. You know, you can definitely still hit people. But what happens when you get 3 shots, you get to unlock the cluster missiles, or whatever they're called, that has a lock in it. It's guaranteed to hit the enemy as long as they're not like behind cover. And even if they are behind cover, you can find ways to have it warp around the cover. So those missiles are very good. The enemies will take a lot of damage. Also, she has her particle wall, which is basically Legion's gun shield, but stationary, and it covers the entire Titan. So you can do a lot of damage while behind this wall and not take any damage at all. which is very useful, but you do have to watch out for a Ronin's Arc Wave. A Ronin Arc Wave will destroy that wall immediately, so if you're a Tone, a Ronin is your worst enemy. And she also has the Pulse Blade. I don't know if it's called the Pulse Blade, but it's the equivalent of a Pulse Blade for a Titan. You shoot it out, and it reveals all enemy Titans in a certain area, and it also gives you a lock for the missiles. It only gives you one lock though, so you still have to shoot your gun 2 times to get the rest of the lock. So it is very useful, it's a very good ability. I feel like all around her kit is very good. And that's not even to mention her core ability, which is very good, which is the salvo core. I think it's one of the better cores in the game, definitely, because you shoot out a barrage of missiles, but you can kind of guide them. So if you shoot them high into the air, you can guide them back down to an enemy, and it's very effective because your enemy didn't even know what hit them. So I feel like her ultimate is definitely one of the better ultimates in the game, really. So that being said, I'm gonna put her. She's definitely up here, but the last tier list I made, I put her in S tier. I put her right behind Ion, and I think I'm gonna keep her there. I think she's a very good Titan. I think she's underrated. I understand why a lot of people hate her because she is very easy to use, but she's also just very good. There's nothing much I can say about that. I mean, she's a very good Titan. I hate to say it, but I do recommend playing Tone. She is really good. Alright, last Titan, Monarch. So I started maining Monarch because, to be honest with you, I don't think I'm that good at Ronin. I think Monarch all around is very interesting because her ultimate is what makes or breaks her, really, and we're going to get to that in a second. But her primary gun is the XO16, which is probably the easiest gun to use out of all the guns here that the Titans have. It's debatable whether the splitter rifle is easier to use, but her XO16 is very good. It's very reliable. I do recommend, using her if you're a beginner, especially with their primary gun. It is very easy to use. She also has what is essentially an ion laser shot, but it's what it's called energy transfer, where you shoot what looks like an ion energy shot, but instead of dealing, well, you do deal damage, but you also take damage, like you take health from the enemy Titan. So that's more, in my opinion, more effective than Ion's laser shot, even though I think her laser shot does more damage than her energy transfer. This, you're only dealing damage. With Monarch, you're gaining health. If you really to total it up in totality, I think Monarch's energy transfer is a lot better. She also has missiles, kind of like Tone's missiles, but instead they don't go by a lock system, you just shoot them out. So it does lead to like inconsistencies. So sometimes it really just doesn't hit an enemy. I mean, if you line up your shot right, you can definitely hit enemies, but even with a good shot, sometimes the way the rockets go, they just kind of like split off and they just kind of go each way, so sometimes they just don't hit enemies at all. If you're far range from the enemy, I wouldn't even use it at all because it's probably not going to hit them. But if you're close range, I do recommend it. It is good to use at close range. What makes or breaks Ion's kit is her upgrade core. Her upgrade core is the most interesting. I don't know if it's the best core because it doesn't deal damage by itself. It only upgrade. You can select certain upgrades, and I think once you hit the second stage of the core, that's when Monarch starts to shine. I mean, before that, she's probably one of the lesser Titans, to be honest with you. And once you hit the second stage of that upgrade core, instantly she's one of the better Titans. So it's very hard to rank her. She can really be anywhere. She's definitely not C or D. I'll say that. She's anywhere between B and S, really. To be honest with you, I had her in S tier in my last ranking, but I think I'm going to change it. I'm going to put her in the middle of A tier this time. Because if you can't get that upgrade core, and sometimes, I mean, if it's a really bad Monarch map, very open map where she takes a lot of damage, sometimes you'll just die before you even get the first upgrade core. And if that's the case, base Ion, just regular, no upgrade core, she's not all that. She isn't really that great. But with the upgrade core, one of the best Titans. So I think in average, I'm going to put her in A tier. A for average. I don't know if I spelled that right. So, yeah, that's my Titan rankings. Thank you guys for watching. If you disagree, then make your own tier list. No, I'm joking. That's fine. I think most people can probably agree on my tier list. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching. Bye.